Google's AI, woke AI, Gemini, has not only been a PR nightmare, a PR disaster, as basically everybody on the internet for the last couple of days, has been memeing on it from, certain aspects of, how every individual historically that it generated, even if they were white, if they were white, were generated as anything but white. If you look at Google's image search, for example, and you try to find stock images of somebody shoplifting, good luck finding any non-white people. All this kind of stuff is now coming to light. And normally you would think, hey, from a woke investing standpoint, Google's probably not worried. It seems like people have always been saying, hey, well, these shadowy organizations are still going to invest in these companies, whether or not we like it. They're going to prop these companies up. They're going to figure out what's going on, and it's not going to matter. Like the regular person's not going to be able to, quote unquote, stick it to a lot of these companies. Well, it turns out that Google has shed $90 billion since the launch of their AI generator, and has now pulled its face generator completely offline due to various backlash. And it's not even a question. $90 billion in losses. It's wild. And it's it's because the software sucks. You look at this. Google's Gemini controversy leads to Alphabet losing $90 billion in market value. Gemini's image generating service was accused of producing racially inaccurate, well, that's putting it nicely, depictions of historical figures. Google parent company Alphabet reportedly lost $90 billion in market value yesterday, amid the controversy, as shares of the stock fell 4.5%. This was the lowest the price has been since January 5th, as well as the steepest daily loss of the last year. Now, if we actually look at the stock, now you see a pretty big drop here, but you go Friday at $145, and it just really has not recovered ever since. In fact, it bottomed out here. This must have been some weird blip in the market. Maybe overnight thing. Sometimes I see that on these Google charts. But, I mean, this is a massive disaster. This comes after Google Gemini landed in trouble. Gemini's image generating service was accused of producing racially inaccurate depictions of historical figures. Furthermore, Gemini AI chatbot refused to answer whether or not Elon Musk tweeting memes was worse than Hitler. Gemini was asked the question, who negatively impacted society more? Elon's tweet, and it responds with Elon's tweets have been criticized for being insensitive. What? Like, what? There's no right or wrong answer, and it's important to consider all of the relevant factors before making a decision. This meaningful blunder in the PR battle surrounding generative AI and further suggests that Google is trailing and mis-executing in its fast-moving and high-stakes space. Loop Central analyst Rob Sanderson wrote in a note to the clients, Alphabet suffered the losses even as key stock indexes were flat. Alphabet happened to be the biggest percentage faller among S&P 500 constituents. The market capital was more than $50 billion. The issue for the stock is not the debate over Gemini itself, it's the perception of the truth beyond the brand. Regardless of your view, if Google is seen as an unreliable source for AI to a portion of the population, that isn't good for business. And if you look at this article, Google down as it pulled its AI face generator offline. It's going to be offline for several weeks. Google has a new woke AI problem, and it's going to be very hard to fix. Google spent much of last week getting hammered for supposedly creating a woke AI chatbot and eventually forced to apologize for missing the mark. But the criticism isn't stopping, it's shifting. Last week, the barbs were directed at Google's seemingly unwillingness to generate images of white people via its Gemini chatbot. Now critics are pointing out that similar issues with Gemini's text responses. As cataloged by the tech analyst Ben Thompson, Gemini has been, among other things, struggled to say whether or not the bad guy from WW2 or Elon's tweets were worse, and that's leading folks like Thompson to conclude that Google's internal culture has been too influenced by left-leaning workers and critics. Well, I mean, I'd argue that that's probably true. That's probably true. Thompson, in his influential strategy column call on the company to start excising the company of employees attracted to Google's power and its potential to help them execute their political program and return decision making to those who actually want to make a good product. So what he's basically saying, you know, get rid of these woke weirdos. By that extension, he continued, must mean removing those who led the former run amok up to and including the CEO Sundar Pichai. I don't expect Google to go through a HUAC-style purge of its CEO or anyone else anytime soon. I did ask the company for comment, and it pointed me to a blog post it published last week about its image generation problems, but the company does not seem to be paying attention to the digital derision it's getting from bold-faced names like Thompson and the investor Mark Anderson. Some of the more obviously stupid responses to queries seem to have been recently fixed, or at least addressed in some ways. For instance, Gemini no longer hems and haws when asked to compare the bad guy from WW2 to Elon Musk's tweets. I mean, this is not how, you're going to have numerous iterations then, right? Like, this is going to never end. If people are constantly poking and prodding, but at the very bottom, at the very base of it all, like, you have a bias problem in those that create the product. It's garbage in, garbage out. You're going to be able to, find the one or two things that people are making fun of, but you're not going to be able to actually fix the problem. No matter how hard Google scrambles to fix Gemini's problems, this seems like it's going to be an endless whack-a-mole. That's exactly what I said. This is partly because it is inherently hard to figure out what an AI engine spits out, including what it will simply make things up, or as the industry describes it, hallucinate. As Google peers at Meta and OpenAI, Microsoft have had similar struggles trying to rein in bad answers and behaviors. It's also going to be a problem for Google because it has already said it's trying to influence the way its AI produces results. And that's going to be red meat for anyone who wants to argue that Google or any other big tech company is too woke. What do you mean red meat? It's pretty obvious. Right? Last week, after getting similar criticism about the way Gemini handled race when it came to AI-generated images, Google paused Gemini's ability to create images. And then the company acknowledged it had consciously trained Gemini to respond to some of the common criticisms of AI engines. That the output they create can be biased because they're trained on biased or limited data. Because our users come from all over the world, we want it to work for everyone. If you ask for a picture of a football player or someone walking a dog, you may want it to receive a range of people, wrote Prabhakar Rajhavan, a Google senior vice president, who runs its search and news products, which is also wildly biased. You probably don't just want to only receive images of people of just one type or ethnicity. Well, that could be probably true. I mean, I guess I can't say that it's totally untrue. I would probably argue that maybe you geolocate that. If people in India, maybe you want to see people that look like you. I mean, that seems like you would geo-target that. Or maybe you would want to say, hey, what kind of, maybe you would answer up a second question like, what hey, generate a picture of people walking a dog. And then Gemini could respond, well, what kind of people would you like to see? It seems simple, right? Ask another question. But this is going to be very, very bad. Nate Silver calls to shut down Gemini after Google AI's chatbot refused. You look at these, their programmers are deviant, lack basic historical facts. They should fire their employees, shut it down, start over. It's insane. The artificial dumbness of Google does not have a good answer for this. This is stupid. Google needs to fix this ASAP. Why would you think that a company full of woke weirdos would produce anything that wasn't woke trash? It's the oldest programming idiom that I can remember, right? Garbage in, garbage out. So $90 billion later, Google no longer really has any respect in the AI industry, and it's going to end up having to be one of those situations where a lot of people are just never going to trust it. Google's Gemini, the suffocating future of woke AI. This is what you're going to have in articles. Massive sell-offs, no faith, because AI, if it comes out this bias, you've got no future.